Hi, and welcome back to another episode with the Empath Sisters. You're hanging out with Bev and
Shelly.
and today we are excited to talk about some encounters that
Hmm.
Shelly and I had pretty much. I mean, we've had many, but kind of throughout the course of our um, lives, I guess, and kind of like all over the place. We've had encounters in many different places. I would have to say the encounters for me are less in just because I have better boundaries now. But definitely like from childhood up until like I would say the probably the last, 8 years. Um, then yeah, I had many encounters of low vibrational spirits. So, and souls who haven't crossed over. If you had listened to that episode of us talking about high vibrational and low vibrational spirits, so yeah, so Shelly and I have got a couple of stories that we thought we would share with you all. And I don't know, super curious to see if anybody else has had encounters like ours. I know the one I'm thinking of right now is the one I had when I was watching a show on Netflix. And so I don't know if that's ever happened to anybody else. We can definitely talk about it. But yeah, Shelly and I have yeah, a few little experiences that we've had. I don't know, encounters sounds kind of like we're talking about we're connecting with aliens.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, wait a minute, maybe we should change how we're
Well, we
wording
can
this.
we can just say encounters with spirit. How about that?
Encounters with spirit, yeah, or
Yeah.
experience with spirit,
Yeah,
those kinds of things.
exactly. Yeah. And I agree. Yeah, like I agree with you, Bev. Definitely have had many of them as,
Mhm.
a child and growing up. And yeah, I agree with you. I think as we got more into this, and with the boundaries, yeah, we don't get
Yeah,
as many as we used to. That's for sure. Um,
definitely.
yeah, I do know that I feel that if I did have an encounter or
Mhm.
experience,
Yeah.
they're really more about, um, more like a sign thing, like they're not, like what we used to be able to like really get, like,
Yeah. Well, the
so
the definitely, and the difference for me is that the the encounters that I have now are with high vibrational spirit. They are
yes,
with spirits who have crossed over, whereas before I want to say the majority would have been connecting with spirits who hadn't crossed over,
right. Yeah,
or those kinds of things. And so
yeah,
that's the difference for me now, where it's like because of my boundary of just like
right.
I do not work with low vibrational spirit. I mean, unless I have to when I'm clearing a house or a commercial space or whatever. And if there is one there, then fine, that's what I'll do.
Yeah.
But it's not that I work with them all the time.
Hmm.
Um, so the encounters that I have now are pretty much, either our own loved ones
Yeah.
or people that we knew, or they'll also be people that are contacting me because of clients that I'm going to
Right.
see, which have crossed over. So that's the only experiences that I really have now, but that's because of my boundaries. So, which
Yeah.
is great. It's
Hmm.
nice because ones that I've encountered throughout my life, my gosh, they're just, I don't want to say anything bad, but
No,
they
but
were
they were
more
they
of
were
a nuisance.
more, well, okay. You can call them nuisances, but I won't. Sorry.
You know,
I'm not going to call them nuisances. I'm going to say they were, some of those were not great. Like
no.
the vibrational of them were definitely, and I'm not trying to make it scary for anyone, but like it was
Mhm.
scary. There were some encounters that we've had that have been, ooh, to the point where you're like, what is happening? So,
Definitely. And I think the one when I was pregnant
yeah,
with
we could.
Tristan,
Oh, with Tristan.
I,
Oh, I was thinking even when you were pregnant with Isabel too.
oh yeah, that one too. I don't know. I feel like the encounter I had with Tristan felt scarier to
Yeah.
me than I want to say.
Than
the Isabel.
Isabel's? Well,
Yeah. Because that one
okay.
was more like what people would classify as ghosty problems.
Yeah, haunting. Yeah.
Yeah. Where the encounter I had with Tristan was like, that just felt like
Evil.
next level scary evil.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No,
that's
I
like the
know. And
difference.
that's the thing. It's just like I look at it this way. Like even though we had those that encounter, like you had that encounter with Isabel, and I remember being like, because I was with you for a lot of those, and at that time it felt, yes, okay, looking back now, it looks like it
Yeah.
was like more of a haunting and a nuisance, but at the same
Yeah.
time, at the time, it was like,
Yeah. Like, oh
scary.
my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely the first one that we can talk about.
Yeah, we
Um,
could.
is my encounter that I had. Oh my gosh, when trying to think if it started before I was pregnant with Isabel. I feel like it did.
Well, I
Yes.
remember a few, if you want me to share one of them. Like,
This with the same spirit.
yes, it was the same spirit, I believe. Well, I'm assuming it was. I
Was it when I lived in the city or when I moved?
know when you moved to
Okay.
Redwater.
Well, I was already having encounters with the same spirit in my apartment before I moved to Redwater.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was happening there, but I do know it was happening when you moved
Yeah.
to Redwater. And
Yeah, no,
yeah.
it definitely started in my apartment. I was living in Edmonton at the time, and
Mhm.
I just was trying to remember timeline wise whether I was pregnant already or just was going to be pregnant. Um, and this encounter that I had was with somebody that I had known, I like
Yep.
had met as basically I want to say like an acquaintance.
Yeah.
It wasn't somebody that I really knew well. I had met this person, I want to say twice, just at like
Yeah.
parties that I attended. It wasn't, yeah, it wasn't somebody that I knew I spent time with, had conversations with. It was more of that passing, like, hey,
Yeah.
hello. And like, I know of this person through these other people. So that was
Mhm.
kind of if I have to call it a relationship, that was kind of the relationship that I had with this spirit. Um, and after the two like encounters I had with this person when they were alive, um, the last one that I had, he was a male, and he had received a call from jail, like
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
and it was like, "Will you accept this call?" And I'm like, "What?" And at that time, I don't even think we had caller display yet. And so I'm like, and it was for me, and it was like, "Will you accept this call from this correctional place?" And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, hello. And it was this male and just chatting with me like we were friends, that
Yeah.
like as if we had known each other. That's how he was. That's the assumption I feel like I was getting from him of like,
Right.
hey, how's it going? How have you been? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't even know you. And you're calling me from jail. I thought, wow, this is strange. Um, so that was the last actual like earthly contact I had with this person
Right. Yeah.
was when I was still living with my parents. And then I moved out to an apartment. And then after that, through the grapevine, I had heard that this person had kind of been, I don't know, kind of involved in some not so great things.
Yeah.
Kind of was on the and anyway, had basically taken his life. And then my girlfriend at the time had called me and told me, "Hey, did you hear such and such? This all happened." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, no, I had no idea."
Mhm.
Um, and after that call, then I started having issues. So then I would be in my apartment and I'd be home alone. And the stereo, my brother had lived with me at that time, he was roommating
Mhm.
with me, and his stereo would just go on and just full blast. And it would just be like, I don't know if anybody's ever encountered that experience, but it's scary.
Yeah.
Have music on that's low, and then all of a sudden it's so loud. It's
Yeah.
like so scary. So I was like, what? the hell? So, shut it off. And then the TV would turn on and turn off. And I was like, okay, I definitely have a spirit, hanging
Yeah.
around. And not thinking that it would be this person in particular. I
Right.
didn't really put it together yet.
Yeah.
And then I remember coming out of the shower, and I had encountered that experience where they write on the mirror and it's steamy.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I also had. And it was like a hi. And I was like, oh, that was also scary because I'm like, I'm showering. At that time, you're just like so
Yes.
creeped out because you're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, are you watching me shower? Um, so then there was that. And then there was more activity like in the bedrooms, like with the dressers and things like that.
Hmm.
Then I got pregnant, and then I was moving with my partner to Redwater. And I was moving into, well, we were trying to find a place to live at that time. It
Right.
was like, nothing to rent. And my sister, Shelly, had
Yeah.
known another acquaintance that
Yeah.
was going to be moving to the city, and he had a house, and he was like, oh, you can totally rent my place. And we were like, well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So we go to look at this place, and it's a tiny little house on the corner of the block, and it's a 2 bedroom, but
Yeah.
the one bedroom's off the living room, and that's all there was because it was literally small. And
Right.
then the other bedroom was off the kitchen
Yeah.
next to the bathroom.
Hmm.
So there's kind of like that wall in between the two. And so we checked it out, and sure. And the basement was like, I don't
It
know,
wasn't,
semi-developed, I would say.
yeah, like it was,
Wasn't I would
yeah.
never use it, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was it had a bedroom down there, and like anyway. And so yeah, so we checked it out, and we are like, okay. And then the guy's telling us, oh yeah, I have such great neighbors and blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay. And Shelly's like,
Hmm.
yeah, you know who they are. And she
Yeah.
says, and I'm like, oh, I have no idea who they are. Shelly's like, yes, you know. And she's doing the big eye thing at me, like, come on, get it. And I'm like, no, I don't. And she's like, you know. And then she said their name, and then she said the
Yeah.
person that passed away, it's their child. And I was
Yeah.
like, and at that moment, it was like, oh,
Yeah.
it just felt like at that moment, everything clicked of like, oh my gosh, this is who the spirit has been that's been hanging around me. And I do know that at this point in my life, that at that time, it's part of my experience of like clearing homes and
Right.
crossing souls over. And I felt like it was part of like bringing him home. So we did take this place, we moved in, and
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I just
Lots
had
and lots of activity.
so much activity. And I almost felt like the energy was, I don't want to say he was possessive, but I feel like he was obsessive maybe over me because he seemed to always make issues for the other people that I lived with.
Yeah, well, like I feel like, well, and I know we have talked about this in our one episode with like the full
Mhm.
circle moment or what have you, but he definitely um I want to say he really wanted your attention. He really wanted to make sure that you paid attention to
Mhm.
whatever he needed at that time. And I mean, of course, you know, we you figured that out later, but the things that he did, yeah, like I remember a lot of them. Like I remember when
Yeah.
we'd come over and I'd come in and you and I would go for a walk and we'd leave the house, we'd come back and all of the kitchen doors were open,
All the
or
cupboards are,
yeah, like they would just be all open, you
all of
know.
them.
Yeah, and we'd
The
be like,
toilet would flush. I would remember the
yeah,
toilet flushing all by itself,
yeah,
you know. And I remember talking on the phone and putting Isabel down in her crib, and my rocking chair would start rocking in the corner. And I'm like,
hmm,
okay,
yeah,
like
yep.
this.
And I
Oh
remember
my,
even the music, like I was there that, well, we were all
yeah,
there and
yeah.
we were having a discussion about it because at that time,
Hmm.
your partner at that time didn't believe in any of this that was
Yeah.
happening.
And he said
And
that.
he
I
literally,
don't
yeah,
believe.
yeah, he literally said it. And then all of a sudden, the stereo blasts and he looks at me like I turned it
Like
up.
Shelly did it.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
and
the
I was
remote
like,
was like
it's like
on the
way over
coffee table.
there. I'm like, I
It's way over there in the
touch
corner. Nobody touched it. Oh my gosh.
it.
After that, he was a believer.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember him getting holy water and going all around the property. And he was like throwing it all around the house. He was so scared.
Yeah, yeah.
And
But that,
my first Oracle deck
yes.
would fly like it literally like would shoot at him. All the cards, just like one
Hmm.
after another. It was like, and
Yeah,
the would do laundry, and
yeah.
all
Well,
of
that's
the
the one.
Bell's
All the
clothes would be spread out through
yeah,
the whole basement.
yes, yeah.
I was like, oh
I
my gosh,
remember
can you
that one.
stop?
But I mean,
Yes.
yeah, like those things have happened. However, I do know,
Mhm.
like, I remember even, you know, other encounters that you used to tell me, like when you used to
Mhm.
go to work, you used to have encounters at work. Now,
Oh,
I'm now
yes.
beginning to think like maybe it was still him, like following you. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, like it was just, yeah, I remember having conversations with you and you saying to me, like, oh my God, this happened to me today, or, like these things would happen. And yeah, at the
Going into
time,
the
like I said
staff
earlier,
room.
felt scary, right? Because it was like,
Of course.
what is this? What is happening?
Yeah, and it wasn't like anything bad happened to
No,
me,
not
us,
physically or
but
anything, but
it just creeps you out because you don't
yeah.
expect it. You walk into the back room at work and it's like
Mhm.
everything's just flying off the shelves,
Yes.
just and you're just like witnessing it. You're like, what?
Yeah.
And I'm like immediately calling somebody.
Yeah.
Oh my
Oh my
God,
God.
this just happened at work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's lots of energy at the malls and oh
Oh
my
yeah.
gosh, just everywhere. So definitely, it was definitely a different spirit, but
Yeah.
a
Like and
I
I
never
know
had
I have
it.
mentioned earlier, like we talked about this in our Halloween podcast, even about like
Mhm,
I've encountered, low vibrational energies as well. And there were, things that I remember seeing. However, I do remember
mhm,
this. I just remembered an encounter that I like, it was kind of like my first, I feel was my very first encounter with a spirit, and it was through
mhm.
the phone. And I remember
Oh,
when I was a child, like our family at the time, Bev wasn't born yet, and like into our family yet. And I remember our dad taking us for a trip to, now I believe it was somewhere in BC at the time. And it could have been Alberta for all I know. I feel like it was BC. But anyway, we went to this place in BC and we were visiting mom and dad's, one of their deaf friends, and they invited us to stay and what have you. And I remember staying there the night, and the phone rang in the middle of the night. And
mhm,
the person who lived at that place, her name was Patty, she went and, of course, answered the phone. And just so you know out there, like, yes, our parents are hard of hearing or deaf. Um, but the people that we stayed with, they were like our dad, where they could hear with a hearing aid and still kind
mhm,
of communicate. So they were able to, of course, hear the phone and pick up the phone. So anyway, I remember them picking up the phone, and I could hear her talking on the other end and couldn't hear like who this person was, well, like what they were saying. And all of a
yeah.
sudden I
Like,
heard them
oh,
say, you know, they were looking for David.
mhm,
And I remember Patty coming over and waking my dad up. My dad goes to the phone and he can't hear them either. So he wakes me up, but I was already up because I could hear the commotion, of course. And
mhm.
so anyway, I remember dad coming over and saying to me, come over here, someone's on the phone and I don't understand. And I said, okay. So, and like, you got to remember, I'm like 5 years old. Okay. Like five or six. And so I go over to the phone And I pick up the phone and I'm like, hello. And on the other end is this like old voice.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a lady voice. And I remember them going, hello, is David there? And I'm like, yes. I'm like, David is here. Who is this? And they wouldn't tell me the name. They just kept saying, it's someone from far, far away. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, what? Like, I remember thinking, like,
Far, far away,
far
lad.
away. Yeah. Yeah. And I remember like hearing them say, like, from far, far away. And so I like dad, of course, is like, signing to me, like, what's going on? What, because like I must have had a confused look on my face because I was like, what? Like, who is
Mm.
this? And so anyway, and it sounded so, I don't know how to explain the sound. So like, I don't know if a lot of you have had actual like old telephones back in the day. When you picked them up, they were like, they had that distinct fuzz sound, right? And so when you picked up the phone and you were talking to someone, you can still kind of hear that little static, I guess. But when
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to this person on the phone, it literally sounded like they were from far, far away. Like, because it sounded like they were
Yeah.
talking like this. Oh, sorry. For ones that are not
Yeah.
like watching us on YouTube, I'm literally taking my hand across like probably good 6 or 7 inches away from the phone and saying like, I am looking for David, that type of thing. But
Yeah.
anyway, it just sounded so far away. And I remember saying, who are you? Who are you? And they would not tell me who it was. They just said that they wanted to say hello to David and that they were from far, far away. And I remember dad going, well, just hang up.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know who
I don't
this
know
is.
who this is.
Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
I do remember hanging up. But then later, because of course, this was a big thing. Dad was so like, I don't understand. Why would anybody
Well,
call in the middle of the night?
yeah, and know
Who
where he
knows?
was.
Yeah, that's what
We
he's like.
didn't have the internet or anything, or
Right.
cell phones. And I was like texting his friends, going, "Oh, I'm going away for the weekend."
Right?
Like they would know,
No.
and if anything would be family, but family would have
Right.
said, you know, "Oh,
Yeah.
it's grandma calling," like
Right.
if there was an
Exactly.
emergency, right? But
Yeah.
that would be it to be logical.
Right, it totally.
Yeah.
And I just remember him talking about it and talking about it because he was just like, I don't understand. Like, why would anybody call me in the middle of the night? And why wouldn't they tell me who it is? And,
Yeah.
whatever. And so I just remember him talking over and over. And then, of course, we get home and we, of course, tell our grandma.
Hmm.
And out of the blue, she says to me, you know, she's like, that's pretty odd. She goes, but I don't know, but maybe it's Baba. And I was like, no way, it couldn't be Baba. But we really, to this day, like, I don't feel it was her because she wasn't even passed over at that time yet.
Yeah.
And, but I do believe that it was somebody like in our family. And I always felt that um, a relative of
Hmm.
dad's that did pass over. And it could have been, Grandma Mildenberger. It could have been, you know, even someone, even his aunts or whatever. I don't know. I just remember that was my very first encounter with like having something happen in the spirit realm, I guess. And it
Yeah.
was on the
Voice.
phone. And it was
Hear his
so,
voice.
yeah, like I just remember
Mm.
thinking, wow, like what was that?
Well, for
So
how powerful Bubba was in her abilities, it wouldn't
mhm,
surprise me that she could use her psychic ability and
right,
know who dad was and call and
right. But yeah,
with her
like it
mind.
was, oh, it was so, I will
There.
never forget it. And I know my dad, like our dad never ever forgot it either because he
Mm.
always still wondered like
Who
who was
that was.
calling him and who was trying to send a message to him, which
Yeah.
was pretty cool. So, Yeah, that
It
I
was
remember.
probably me before I came. I'm like, hello, David, I'm coming from far, far away. There's going to be a baby on the way.
It
I
could
was your
be.
mother in your past life. I'm coming back.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, but yeah, like
Oh, you're funny.
I remember that. That was like pretty much my like other than seeing spirit in physical form, you know what I mean? That type of
Yeah, totally.
encounter.
But like
That was my
talking,
first like audio. Yeah, and I was just like, "Oh my God, it was like it still blows me away like how
and you knew it was different because
oh,
you made calls anyway. So that's how you were able to separate that this one was not like any other that you've had
mhm,
ready to that,
totally.
that
Yeah.
point in your life. So
Yeah. And even like the people that we stayed with, I still remember them like talking about it. Like they were just like, what? Like, how did they know our number? All that stuff.
yeah,
So
that's
it's
what I mean.
like,
It's like, oh my God.
yeah. Yeah. So that I do like that was my, I would say that was kind of like my first, you know,
First one. Yeah.
like hearing that. Not that, like I said earlier, like I did see some of them, but
Yeah.
it sounds weird maybe, but like they didn't really talk. Do you know what I mean? But they talked, but they were in my mind's eye. You know what I mean? Where
Mm-hmm.
this was audio, like they were
You're hearing
talking. I
out
could
loud.
hear them talking, that type of thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was pretty cool
Well,
experience. That's for sure.
it is really cool. I
Yeah.
um I mean, I love those kind of, like, to me that's not scary. That
No, it
doesn't
wasn't. It
enough,
was one of
right?
my,
So that would be
yeah,
like, oh, that's
right.
cool.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. That's why I'm like I said, that, you know, it, not every like you even said it earlier in this episode, like not
Mm,
every encounter we have with spirit is scary. It
scary.
isn't anything like that. It's just sometimes it's so amazing you can't even understand it logically. Your brain just doesn't,
No, the brain just definitely doesn't understand. It's like
no.
that weird.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Or,
Yeah.
things that you do, like you just logically don't understand. Like if I'm going to continue on a phone call thing, like I still remember that one time, like I was sitting visiting you guys when you
Yeah.
guys lived on 124th, and the phone didn't even like keep like this is the part that still blows my mind. Something told me to get up and go over to your phone, pick it up.
Mhm.
And when I picked it up, somebody was on the other end. It did not even ring or anything. I just remember picking it up. And I'm like,
Well,
hello?
answer the phone.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
things like that, logically, your brain just doesn't compute like
Of
what is
course
going
not.
on,
Not
what's
even on the
happening.
same frequency.
Yeah. Right. So,
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, I've had that too, but yeah, so that's definitely one thing that I remember, and I thought, well, I'd share that one today because, you know, maybe you've had it. Maybe, you've had it out there that you've had the same experience, or you've had encounters of spirit by audio or the telephone, if you still had the telephone at the time, because like we have cell phones now and they're different, but I mean, you
Mhm.
still get phone calls because again, I got that other phone call.
Mhm.
That
Yeah,
remember that
definitely.
gentleman? Like
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
just like,
I was after I did distant healing on you, and you lived
yeah,
in Lethbridge,
yeah, yeah.
and then you got that call,
And
but it
like,
was like
but my
sounded
mind,
out.
yeah, well, yeah. And like my mind went to like record this because nobody's gonna
Yeah.
believe you.
Yeah, totally. Of
So
course.
I did. And
Yeah.
I remember like the way he talked to me and all that, and the way he laughed.
Yeah.
I just remember sending it to you and going, "You have to listen to this." And like it literally sounds like dad. Like it was crazy. Like
When it's interesting that you bring that one up
yeah,
because I I just did like a past life regression with somebody,
yeah,
and it was so cool. Like, what an honor to be like facilitating this, I mean, they're all honoring, but this one
Of
was
course.
so cool to witness and facilitate. And when this person went back to their this past life that relates, of course, to this life, wasn't anyone in particular in her life that they're connected to. It was their spiritual master
Oh,
that they had.
wow.
Yeah, and just the journey that this person went on at that time and experienced and was taught,
Yeah.
this is what was coming out. And it
Yeah.
was just like, and I'm sitting there going, I know all this. Like, wow, like, and this is so long ago, right? And I'm just
Yeah.
like breathing down for her. But however, she remembers it all anyway. But just so, so cool. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It just that just like
Well,
how
yeah, because
it
how
just doesn't
he,
sound like how we're talking. It's
right.
just so like wisdom
Yeah.
and knowledge and just so different. It's so cool.
You just made me think of what, like, I'm literally listening, like, replaying that message in my brain.
Yeah.
And I can actually hear him saying, I remember saying to him, because like I said, the logic brain doesn't compute. And
Yeah.
I'm literally asking him over and over, like, and so how did you get my number?
Yeah. Well, because you're trying to get them to like give proof. Say it. I'm recording it. How did you get my number?
And he's like, literally, like, well, I was in a, meditation and all this stuff, and your name and your number came up. And I was like, what?
The meditation just appears. Shelly Greenlaw, 780. I know your number appears.
Right?
can't I can't
Oh,
deny it. I can't, it can happen.
oh, totally. I know that. But
Yeah.
like, even what you're just saying, like, it just amazes me sometimes how we just receive these type of messages, or,
I know.
it's
It really is
just,
so cool.
it is like,
Even and like each encounter is so different. My encounters with angels,
right.
the ones that I've had that are like mind
I
blowing,
know.
those were so different than any other experience that I've had. Then I've had
Mhm.
encounters with my higher self and my team speaking
Mhm.
out loud to me.
Yeah.
And that is so different than the angelic ones. And then to have loved ones, and then to have ones that are not crossed over that I don't know.
Right.
All of them are so different. I
They're
remember
every
working
one of them.
at the when I worked at the pharmacy,
Oh yeah,
and I
right.
worked at
Yeah.
the post office, and I was sorry, and I was covering the front for one of the ladies who was on break or something, and so I'm at the front till, and there's this older gentleman. I don't want to be rude, you know, very, very, very fatherly or great grandfather like.
Mhm.
Um, comes in real slow, set their pace, right? And as soon as he came in, we had like those metal bin like wire things where they keep the newspapers.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what was kind of like right beside
The
the
till.
counter.
Okay, yeah.
So as he comes in slowly, this is what he's walking towards, which I'm like right near it. And as this is happening, then all of a sudden, spirit comes in like right from behind me and like hits me. Like
Oh,
that's what it felt like as if they just came in and I was like, ugh, like,
I
oh,
know.
oh, right. And then I have this woman freaking out, talking to me in my head, and is like, that's my husband. That's my husband. You need to talk to my husband. Tell my husband I'm here. And I'm just like, in my mind, I'm having a conversation with myself. I'm like, are you insane right now?
Right? Yeah.
I'm not doing this. And she just harassed me. And he just grabs his paper and he's slowly coming around, and
Yeah.
he comes still, puts down the paper. And I'm like, I can't even concentrate because she's so persistent. And
Yeah.
she's like, tell him I'm here. Just tell him I'm here. He needs to know I'm here. And I'm just like, in
Mhm.
that moment, I checked in with myself and I was like, I can't. I am so sorry. I have
Yeah.
no idea how this man is going to react. Like, could you imagine if I'm like, hi,
Excuse me.
excuse me. your wife is here. You
Yeah.
know, he
Yeah.
would be
He's
like
like,
logically going, like,
no,
that's not a
she's
funny
not.
joke. Like,
Yeah,
no, she's
exactly.
not here. Right. And I'm like, doing that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like bickering with her. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like,
Mhm.
the position that you've put me in is just not the right time. Like, I
No.
know you'll find another time to reach him, but I just don't feel that this is the appropriate time. And I knew in my knowing because I've had encounters like that where I have done that. I have
Yeah.
person permission and shared
Hmm.
messages, but in that moment, as I checked in, it was just like definitely was not the timing, and I
No.
felt bad to send her away. But and then
Yeah.
he just carried on his paper and he left. But I was just not expecting that at all. It was just
Yeah.
like wow, it was so fast. It
That,
reminds me of oh, go
go ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead. That
I was
reminds you of
going to
what?
say it just reminds me of the encounter that we had when we were doing our retreat and how the
Oh, yeah.
first spirit came in
Yes.
so fast. And then I was like, wait, just
Yeah.
wait. And I
Yeah.
had to go upstairs first before we started. And
Yeah.
it just harassed me, followed me. And I'm like, just wait. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not ready. And
Hmm.
that's what felt how it just,
Yeah.
and then as soon as like, okay, we're going to start. And then wham,
I know. Yeah. She
just took
came in
over my
full
body. And
force.
I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I know.
like,
You made me remember another, like a similar encounter. Same thing. But I was out having lunch with
yeah.
a friend, and all of a
Mm.
sudden we're sitting. I'm having lunch with my friend, and of course
Was it
I'm
for your friend?
no. So this is what
Oh,
happened.
okay.
So yeah, like we're literally sitting, and I'm facing the entrance, of course. I always like to face the
Yeah.
entrance.
We had a discussion
Yeah,
about
we
this as
did.
well.
Yeah.
About whether we
So
like to be near the entrance or face the entrance. However,
yes, yeah.
you
And I
know,
like to face the entrance. And so I'm literally waiting for my friend. She does show up. We were starting to have our really nice lunch date. And all of a sudden I see this same thing. It's like this older gentleman, and he's coming in, walking, same thing, kind of slow, but he does have other people with him. He has like I believe it was like maybe some grandchildren or something like that with him, and they were treating him out for a lunch as well. But anyway, same thing. All of a sudden, and like my friend, even across from me, is like literally looking at me like, "You okay?"
you're like, what happened to you in this moment?
I must have like totally like looked like I zoned right out because as soon as he
Yeah.
came in and he went over, like he was sort of like sitting. So like if I don't know how to explain it, but it was kind of like diagonal to me. And
Mhm.
he sat down. And as soon as he sat down, same thing. I swear I just went into this like zone trance.
Yeah.
And same thing. I started getting all of this like feelings like of not really like anxiety, but it was kind of, but that's just how they come in for me. So like they'll come in
Mhm.
that way and what have you. And I'm just sitting there
Yeah.
and uh, they, like I said, my friend is like literally going, "Are you okay? What's going
Whoa.
on?" Yeah.
What thought did you just have that you
Yeah.
left this?
Because I literally was talking and then all of a sudden I wasn't. And then I'm like literally going like this same thing. Like I'm having a conversation in my head, but as I'm having this conversation in my head, I'm telling my friend, I'm like, just a sec. Um,
A
I'm
second, I'm communicating with
yeah,
somebody else at the moment that
yeah.
you can't
I'm
see
like,
right now.
I'm like, I'm literally, I don't know what's happening. Just I'm like, just one sec. And she's kind of like, okay. I just remember it being so funny because I was like, she's probably thinking I'm some weirdo. What is happening?
Was it your first lunch date with her?
I think it was
Or
my
like,
second.
you're weird.
Yeah, it was like my second date, like
Oh my
lunch date with
gosh. She's
her.
probably like, are you having a stroke? Like, what's happening? Oh my gosh.
And like I said, I was like,
Oh,
I was literally like, just one second, like,
I don't know what's happening to me. Just a
yeah,
minute.
I'm like, just a minute. And same thing. This lady is literally going, oh my gosh, like, same thing. That's my husband. I need you to go over to him. Please go over to him.
Could you
Please go over.
imagine?
I know, right? And I remember going, no, like I'm thinking in my head, no way. Like I'm like, I am not doing that.
Totally.
Like,
And you're trying to be in this like lunch, right? I was trying to just be nice to this
yes.
guy. Like there's nothing wrong with me, but
No.
yet you're having this separate conversation
Yeah.
who is so persistent and they're
Yeah.
trying to get you to do something and you're like,
Hmm.
uh, so awkward. I
Right.
don't want to do that. It's like you're just
Well,
like,
and that's just it. And I kept saying to her, no, I'm not going over there. I'm sorry. That's just not what I don't do that. I don't go up to people. And so I remember having this
okay.
conversation with her. And then I'm
Oh,
telling my friend, I'm like literally going, I'm so sorry. I'm like, and like she kind of knows like that, like I could communicate with spirit, but like didn't know what the
right.
depth was and all that.
Mhm.
So I just remember saying, like, oh, I'm like, something's going on with this gentleman. Like I said, do you see that gentleman over there? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, I'm like, I have to go, I have to go tell him something, but I'm not doing it. And she's like, oh, like, okay. And like we're almost done our lunch, right? And
Mhm.
and of course he's over there still with his whatever, and he's having their own conversations and stuff like that, but I'm still literally arguing with this lady who is trying to get me to go over there. And
Mhm.
I remember saying to my friend, I'm going to try my best to get rid of her because like I can't get her to stop bothering me, and I'm having this like feelings and what have you and anxiety a bit about it because I'm like she's really like overwhelming me.
Yes.
And so anyway, it finally settles down, and she's still there. But then all of a sudden, the gentleman gets up and he starts to leave. I don't know why he left or whatever, like before we left, even. And because like he had just come in and what have you. And so anyway, he's leaving. And all of a sudden, that's when I felt her leave me. And I went, oh,
Mm.
thank God. Because I'm not going after him. Like, I'm not doing that. So that
Yeah.
just made me
Chase them down.
remember, like, with your encounter with the older man, that happened to me too.
Mhm.
But it just happened
Yeah.
to be on a lunch date. And I was like, I still remember my friend's face. It
Of
just
course.
was like, what?
What's happening to you?
Yeah. And then I explained after, and I said, yeah, I tried not to, you know, do that. And told her like
Yeah.
that's just not how we work and or I work too and blah blah blah. But I've had that same encounter. So yeah,
And I
same thing.
definitely, in those ones, I definitely check in and see. And the ones that I have, like in when I'm traveling at night, if I have
Yeah.
a loved one that reaches out to me, that's so different. I'm like, sure, I'll take your
Yeah.
message. And, like being
Of
a secretary,
course.
and then I come back and then I reach out to that person. I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
when you're receiving a message, from a loved one, and
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, of course. And
Yes.
so then I share it, and then it's fine and it's done.
Yeah.
But and some I've had that come through, and the time is right, depending on the like where we are, what's going on, or the
Hmm.
feeling that I'm getting from the person.
Right.
Definitely do that. But sometimes it's just not the right time.
No.
So
No.
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of
It's
feel like I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I feel bad
me
to
too.
not in
Hmm.
those situations because I mean, I just because of doing mediumship with clients is like how lovely it can be to have these people come through
Of
and you hear
course.
from them and you have that connection and it's so lovely. And but but again, those people are coming looking for that
Right. Yes.
where when we're out and about, it's not people are looking for it.
Right.
I mean, there are those times when they're like you're talking to somebody and they know what you do and they're like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
So like is my grandma here right now? Like
Yeah.
who's all over me right now?
I know.
So much, so funny.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes it goes into a conversation of like, okay, yeah, there's something here. Let's talk about it. And sometimes I'm
Yes.
like, no, like Nobody's here right now,
Well,
and
and
that's okay.
we've, well, yeah, and we've discussed that before, where, it is about timing and it is
It is.
about also permission. And we don't
Yeah.
cross that boundary sometimes. And so it does happen to us where they try. And like I said to a
Mhm.
lot of other people that I've worked with too, it's like, yeah, sometimes they come in, but is
Yeah.
it our place to tell them that at that moment? Might not
Mhm.
be,
Mhm. Yeah.
so
Totally. Yeah. I kind of just check in with myself. Like,
yeah,
is this the
yeah,
right time? I'll know immediately. It's like, yes, it's happening. No, this is not happening.
right.
It's very clear, I
Yep.
feel like, for
Yeah,
me
I agree.
in my knowing, but
Yeah.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So, but yeah. So that I think will give you guys some food for thought.
Yeah. I'll let you
And
digest that. We have many
yeah.
more. I think we'll
Oh
do a
yeah.
part two.
Yeah, we could.
And we'll
Or
pick up
continue
on,
more experiences that we've had for sure. 100%. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. So, but yeah, if you have any encounters with spirit or anything that you'd like to share, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We would love to
Yeah.
hear them. We love hearing other people's stories and experiences as
Absolutely.
well. And
Yes. Or if
yeah.
you'd like to join us on our
Oh yeah.
podcast, you're welcome to do that too.
Oh,
If you'd like to
absolutely.
come on air and chat with us about your experiences, be
That would be
great.
fun. Yeah, that would be
We
fun.
would be so honored. So don't be
Yes.
shy.
Yeah.
Um, it's really easy, honestly. You
Yeah.
just
It's just talking, just
really
like we
easy
do.
to do it.
Yeah.
Yes, we would
So,
love to hear from you.
yeah, we would. And you can also, like I said, if you do want to reach out to us, you can find us on our Instagram, which is _empath sisters. And you are more than welcome to email us at email us. Sorry, I mean, email us at empathsisters@gmail.com. And we are also on Facebook, and it's just Empath Sisters. So, yeah, we would love to
Yeah,
hear from you. Or if you know Bev and I and you want to, give us a message, you can do that too. Um,
absolutely. We have our
you could even
direct.
send it,
Oh,
yeah, send it directly to Bev on her page, and that's spiritual _mentor _Bev Lazar, or to me at the Healing Libra. So, yeah, we would love to
mhm.
hear from you. And we appreciate you all listening to us today. And
Yes,
we're sending you love, light, and gratitude wherever this may find you guys.
you bet. Take care, everybody.
Have a good day, everyone. Bye.